Good evening, and welcome to Soluble, America's Political Central. Today is April the 5th in the year of our Lord, 2023. And, of course, this is all things political. The subject of tonight's discussion is spinning and winning when it comes to the argument. If you're listening carefully, you can see, the difference between both. And it could be either side. It could be either side. It could be the Democrats or the Republicans, where they're spinning the argument. Now, as of late, it's more than likely been Republican politicians who will spin the argument. But regardless of party, that's going to be the night's subject of talking points: spinning the argument, winning the argument. And we'll let history decide, who's on the right side, which is, in the future to come. But before we get into, spinning and winning of the argument, we're going to talk about, some of the things that are currently going on in the political world here in the United States of America. We've had, a big student walkout today, yesterday, concerning, centered around the latest mass school shooting that happened in Nashville. And the students, they're speaking loud and clear. They want common sense gun legislation. And, what better motivator? What better, group of the American population that would move the hearts of our politicians than our children, to come out in mass. And it's nothing that, these kids enjoy or that they relish or they want to do. But they're right. They're out here in protest for their lives. They're out here in protest for their lives. And as I said, they want common sense gun legislation. Democrats, all over America, you need to listen. You need to keep pounding. You need to keep pounding away. The majority has spoken. And that's why you're in power. Now, in order to possibly stay in power, as Democrat politicians, as we feel might be better for America than the Republicans, you're going to have to keep doing the right thing. You're going to have to keep doing the will of the majority. And, I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to understand and or realize that the majority of school-age children in America today want common sense gun legislation on the books. If you ask them whether or not they want an assault weapons ban or no, I'm quite sure that their answer would be that they want the ban. That they want the ban. I mean, it's common sense legislation. And as I said, they're in fear for their lives. They're in fear for their lives. So we have work to do there. We're not in an election year, but it's fast approaching. So we need to keep, as Democrats, we need to keep in mind what the will of the American people is. What's the pulse there? What do the majority of Americans want when it comes to common sense gun legislation? And I think that we can, see by evidence of the walkouts all across the country today, from the East Coast to the West Coast and in between, that these kids want common sense gun legislation. So, Democrats take note. And let's be on the right side of the history when it all goes down. Moving on, the job numbers look good for the last month. The job numbers for March came out. There were 145,000 jobs created for the month of March. We don't know what sectors, had the most, whether it was, in the fast food sector, the construction sector. We don't know where this, good job number come from. But overall, the economy is ho-humming along, which seems to be just fine. 145,000 jobs, created here. And so, if it's not broke, don't try to fix it. That's the Democratic approach. That's our position here at Soluble, for all, all voters across America who are paying attention, but especially Democratic voters who are paying attention. 145,000 jobs. That's good. That shows that, the system is working for everyone. And there's opportunity out there for everyone. And that's what, chasing the American dream should be about. Furthermore, we have, what's going on with the storms that's wreaking havoc, all across the country. It is what it is. We don't know if, the federal government can keep up. We don't know how it's affecting insurance agencies, but we ought to, take, a long, serious look at climate change and, what we can do as human beings to try to stem the tide, slow down the warming of the planet, and whatever we can do, we ought to, go all out to make the planet as safe as we can, as when it relates to cooling of the temperature, if you will, carbon emissions being emitted into the atmosphere. We have a role to play. I mean, the storms are more often, they're more intense, and so there's definitely something going on there. We ought to let the science lead us to wherever it's going to lead us. Trust the science, and follow the recommendations. That's the best we can do, at this point in time. Of course, the president, he went through an indictment, a sad day in American history. As we've, put out on the last podcast, this is a Saturday in politics, a Saturday in the country. But the president went in, made his plea, listened to the case, the indictment that they brought out against him, fingerprinted and what have you, and it was over. But as I said, a very, very sad day in American politics, in American history. But elections have consequences, and we thank, as I said, we thank the Almighty that this is the minority. The MAGAites and the former president with his agenda is in the minority. We know what we have to do to keep him there. We know what we have to do to keep him there. So, lest we forget, this is, a dangerous precedent. But, it is what it is. The former president took it there. He relishes in it. He looks at the Oval Office and the the office of the presidency as definitely a fundraiser for him. He thinks it's all about the Trump brand and using America, using the Oval Office, using that position of power, using the shield of office to make money. And at the end of the day, it's good for the Trump brand. The suckers will never see it. His diehard supporters, they'll probably never understand it. But from a soluble point of view, that's what we think is going on in the country. I mean, by all reports, the former president didn't have a mug shot, but yet he's floating the idea of selling T-shirts with his mug shot on there, even though he wasn't officially mug shot. But he wants these T-shirts out, and from what we're hearing in the press, they may be going for, starting at $47 a pop. Being that he was the 45th president, and if he was elected again, I guess he would be the 47th. So it's grifting at its finest. What they call grifting. We hear it soluble, we break it down in layman terms, and he's fundraising off of the Oval Office. He's using it for his own benefit, not using the office to better the country and make the country a stronger and better and safer place, and continue to be a beacon of freedom, an example of what democracy does for humankind all around the world. That's not in his thought. That's not in his psyche. It's only about, what benefits him. What benefits him. So those are, just a few of the things that's currently going on in politics today. And we can hold the line. We can hold the line if we just, continue to show up, stay engaged and show up. And, as the former president came and went, then, it was necessary, we feel like here, for soluble to come, to try to bring out the truth, to try to help find a solution, to put the solution out there. Now, whether Democrats and Republicans want to, participate in that truth or want to engage in that truth, or want to listen and refine it, make it better. That's up to them. That remains to be seen. But it was necessary, as I said. And it's necessary for us to continue to rock the vote, to continue to show up. If we care about the country, if we care about our state of living, our state of being, our state of safety in the country. Just like in Wisconsin, we showed up. Of course, former President Obama went out. I think, former Senator Hillary Clinton went out, in a campaign. And the Democrats in Wisconsin, we have good news to report tonight. They held the line. They have the majority on the Wisconsin State Supreme Court now. And, in coming up to an election year is very important. It's very important because, it can have an effect on a lot of things. Women's rights, voting rights. It is very, very important. So we showed up there. Also in Chicago, we was able to manage to get a win with the progressive Democrat on the ticket for mayor. So those are two shining examples of where, we go out and we vote, we turn out, we show up strong at the polls. That's the only way. That's the main way to, for starters, give these children all across the country who are trying to go to school and learn and not have to worry about jumping at the sound of a car backfiring or, a book falling on the floor and having to jump or worry, wondering, are these gunshots? Are there shooters in the school? If we turn out, if we rock the vote continuously, then, we hold the line. We save America. On the other side, you have the Republicans, who have went so far right and, taking a bite of the Trump ideology, chewed it up and found nothing distasteful about it, and they swallowed it. And that is his ideology that the elections are rigged. The elections are not fair. They're even today, the president is still pushing misinformation. Falsehoods that there was ballot stuffing in the millions. And, it's just a sad measure of a human being who, takes losing so badly. What kind of a human being does that speak to? Who, will do anything to win? I mean, no one wants to lose. But at the same time, people have a conscience and they don't want to do something that's undermined or underhanded to win either. The common good in all of us as human beings. We don't want to win so badly that we're willing to cheat, fudge, lie. But here we have the former president. And he's guilty of all this. Still right now today, sowing seeds of discord when it comes to the country's elections. And, when you're a patriot and you really love your country, then you will hit back. If you're a country-loving Republican, a patriotic Republican, then every time the president comes out with mistruths, then you have to come out and counter it with the truth, just as vocally and as forcefully as the president is putting out the falsehoods. But you don't see that. Shortly after the indictment and the whole process was over, the former president flew back to South Florida and gave a speech, slamming the judge, slamming the DA, and sowing seeds of discord about our elections. And this is supposedly a former president who loves his country. But what do you have good to say about the country? What do you have good to say about the country? I mean, if he can cheat on his taxes, America's a great place to live. If he can assault women and get away with it, America's a great place to live. If he can do fraudulent real estate deals, cut corners, scam people, cheat people out of their money, then America's a great place. But now, as soon as he's starting to be held accountable, as soon as, the American justice system begin to catch up and say, wait a minute, there's a lot of underhanded stuff going on here. Now, all of a sudden, America's a mess. It needs fixing. And Donald J. Trump, is the only one that can fix it. Now, we've seen what that looks like. And, as I said countless times on this podcast, we're coming up into an election year. And, it speaks volumes now about the whole Republican apparatus, because they won't stand up to the former president. And so, they expect us as the American people to trust them now with the Oval Office. If it was a party that could have stood up to this man for the sake of the country when he's undermining institutions, running roughshod over the Constitution, then we can stomach it. We can say, okay, give us more. Let us hear what you have to say. But here are the Republicans, getting ready to go on the stage in the next coming months. The Iowa caucus will be here before you know it. So here the Republicans get ready to go on stage and make the case. And none of them to date, could stand up to the former president as a patriotic, loving American should, in defense of the Republic. Because we have all, as Americans, been charged with defending it, defending democracy, defending the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. Now, the foreign part, the Republicans got it down pat. They're not missing a beat. But when it comes to the domestic, they don't see it. There's no clear and present danger there. And, that's the spin. And speaking of spin, from there, we're going to get into tonight's subject title of discussion, spinning the argument and winning the argument. And I guess, we'll first start out by talking about one of the opposing party's favorite talking points: crime. Crime is on the rise. Crime is out of control. It's crime all the day long that, it is hurting America, and it's making the American people, afraid. They don't want to come out and live their lives. This is the spin. This is the spin of the argument when it comes to crime. Now, don't get me wrong. Crime is definitely, something that we ought to be concerned about. Crime is something that we can't take lightly, but at the same time, in winning the argument on crime, because as I said, it is and can be a problem in America. Where does it have its origins? How does it originate? One of the things we know that is, crime is largely due to poverty. Drug use is come into play here as of late. But as far as, crime being something that we all should be so concerned about, we should be concerned, but it shouldn't be an overwhelming concern, because we have our law enforcement agencies in place. They're they're bound by a set of rules, a code of conduct, to go out all across America and police, serve, and protect. That's what they're charged with. And they're able to do their job. As far as the necessary equipment, the necessary manpower, they're able to do their job. But, we don't want a cause of police brutality. Here, there, one case is one too many. When we have a rogue cop, not following the book or not going by the book. Because when this happens, crime can spiral even more out of control in situations where, Joe Public, the neighborhood or the community feel like, police are not policing in a fair manner. Police are not policing in a manner like, all lives matter in the community, in the neighborhood. Then, there can be an effect of effective mind state where, one says, well, the police don't care, they're unfair. They say one thing on paper and they're doing another. So I'm just going to go out and I'm going to be that menace. Because if they don't care, then I don't give a crap either. We can create that type of mind state in the everyday Joe public. So, why crime, like I said, it should be, and it is a major concern. And, if it's not properly with Democrats, if it's not there like it should be, excuse me, if the right attention is not being put on it like it should be, then we want our politicians to be made aware of it. We want to light a fire on them. And, as I said, that's the one thing that continues and can keep the Democratic Party an effective and working party, holding our elected officials to task, making phone calls, showing up at the town halls. These politicians are regularly, out and about, talking to their constituents, going back to leaving DC and going back to their districts. And, so it's up to us as Americans to, know when those time and dates are, know when they're showing up, where they're showing up. I mean, because it's being put out there as far as public information. So when it comes to crime, that's the spin of the argument. The crime is out of control. No, we here at Soluble won't agree that it's out of control, but it should be of a major concern. It should be of a major concern. The spinning argument when it comes to crime is a lock 'em up mentality. And, this is the Black Lives Matter mob, or this is the protesters in the summer of 2020, who are just criminals and thugs. And, they should be locked up in mass. This is the spinning argument. This is the spin when it comes to crime. Now, we have to look at the numbers. We have to look at the numbers when the former president was in office. What did crime look like? Did crime go down under his watch? Did crime go up? We know what the summer of 2020 brought. It brought unrest. It was a civil unrest. And the people showed up in mass to protest what they perceived as, racial injustice, police brutality. They showed up in mass, and it was a whole melting pot. So spinning on that argument that, crime is, public enemy number one, it's out of control, Democrats are soft on it. That's the spin on the argument. That's the spin on the argument. Here we have, a party that is selective about crime. If you're going to be serious about crime, be serious about crime all across the board. You can't think that, the summer of 2020 was nothing but, a protest march and a riot of criminals and thugs. And then you think the January 6th insurrectionists were nothing but patriots who were just on a stroll through the Capitol. Crime is crime. So, be careful of the spinning argument there and the winning argument, which is just what I just said. Crime is crime. Let it be prosecuted fairly all across the board. Let's go after white collar criminals as well as we'll go after criminals who are doing things that, affect, everyday people's lives and not their money. That brings harm to people, that brings harm to property. Let's go after all crime. But, with this spinning argument, from the Republicans' point of view, white collar crime is not a problem. It's not a problem. Domestic terrorism, assault weapons in the country where people are being murdered, killed on a regular basis, that's not a problem. That kind of crime is not a problem. And so, the Republicans have a chance to respin this or stop spinning it all together. And, come to the podium and tell the American people accurately, what we're facing in this country as far as crime. Crime is crime, as I said. And if you have domestic terrorists, who are trying to stop a peaceful transfer of power, then we go after those criminals. We go after those criminals because no one is above the law. If we have everyday Joe Public out here breaking and entering, robbing, running up in stores and flash mobs and stealing merchandise and running back out, in the same flash mobs of people going into jewelry stores, breaking open jewelry cases and just grabbing jewelry. We have to prosecute that. We have to go after it. We have to go after them with a forceful determination. So that's the winning argument that we present to you here at Soluble. Crime is crime. Let's go after it all across the board. Let's go after it in a professional way that shows that police have professional training, with regard to the American public who they're sworn to serve and protect, and go by the book. There are rules of engagements. There are rules of de-escalation to calm a situation down. So go after the criminals hard, firmly, non-stop, but follow the rules. Go by the book, because there's a wrong way to police and there's a right way to police. And when you go out here and you're doing policing in the wrong way, that could very possibly stir up more resentment and thereby stir up more crime. Because you have one group of citizens in one neighborhood seeing that they're being policed different. They're being policed in a more stricter way, a more forceful way, and then they see another group of citizens in another community getting basic slaps on the wrist, no jail time for the same offenses. That kind of resentment could create more crime. So beware of the spin here that crime is out of control. No, it is a concern. Yes, that's the winning argument, that crime is a concern. Out of control, that's the spin. Democrats are soft on crime. That's the spinning argument. That's the spinning argument. The Republicans lock them up approach, it'll never work. It never has worked. The overcrowding of prisons. It costs us more to house these inmates than it does to give them an education or a skill and let them go out and be productive members of society. And so, we think that's the winning argument, when it comes to, dealing with incarcerated individuals and individuals who are headed into the criminal justice system, to try to find a way to stop them from coming out and going in again as repeat offenders over and over and over again. So, that's the spinning argument, and that's the winning argument there. Spinning on around to the next topic when it comes to the spinning argument and the winning argument. Another thing that is very much a Republican talking point, and they feel like they need to bring into the next election cycle is dealing with the woke mob. Dealing with the woke mob. Now the spin on that is that American citizens became aware of what the MAGA movement really stood for, and they had no other choice but to rise up. Now, did some peaceful protesters go into areas where American citizens were dining, watching plays, shopping, just going about their daily commute and do disruptive things? Yes, they did. Can we definitely say these were Black Lives Matter protesters? No, we can't, not with any absolute definitiveness. Now, the FBI had put out that during the protests in the summer 2020 that, it wasn't the protesters in large who were, doing things like breaking windows, setting fires. These were anarchists who were amongst the crowd, who wanted the heat to be turned up in hopes of provoking, possibly a race war or just totally anarchy. Because, that's what's kind of in the MAGA movement there, to take the whole system, break it down, explode it, and come out with something new, and so take it and put it in the midst of chaos. And then once it's all said and done, and we go through this chaotic cycle, this chaotic struggle, chaos begets chaos. And once it's all said and done, we come out with a totally new system, where Only God knows, what the vision would be there if the Magarites had prevailed. But the spin is that, it's a woke mob, and they're dangerous. They're terrorizing America. They're part of the deep state, and they're laying in wait for what we haven't heard from the Republicans. Now that's the spinning argument. Now the winning argument is that this was the entire melting pot. This wasn't some, when you think of a mob, you might think of something like, the scenes out of The Godfather or Bronx Tale, or something out of, a New York John Gotti, handbook. And it was anything but. It was anything but. It was the whole, and when I say whole, I mean the whole melting pot that participated in, trying to save the Republic, because they saw the direction that, the MAGA movement was going in after giving it a fair shot, after giving it a chance. Here we are in a re-election year in the summer of 2020, and this happens with George Floyd. Now, other things had already happened. I think we had Brother Ahmaud Arbery, he got murdered, just jogging in the neighborhood. So there were several things that happened leading up to the George Floyd situation that really caused things to explode. And so, that's the spin on it. From the Republican side, where they're spinning, it's a woke mob. They're dangerous. They're out to get you. They're criminals and thugs. And what we have to do now is we have to loosen all the gun laws in America, especially in Republican states. You don't need a permit. You don't need to go to concealed weapons carry classes. You can just buy a firearm and stick it in your pocket. No easier than a kid would walk into a store, buy a candy stick, and walk out of the store with one stuck in his pocket and one in his mouth. Here we are. This is the spinning argument for the woke mob. This is the spinning argument. And it's in the Republicans' playbook. They love to spin it. They love to spin it in order to deceive and to sow seeds of fear. And there's nothing like a scared voter. To vote for someone who they feel like, can make them safe and can protect them when the other side isn't. And so, here we are. Here we are. It's a hard spin. The woke mob. Now, in all my years in America, for an American citizen, to wake up and discover what it means to be a patriot, what it means to be a good American, what he or she may need to do, as far as participating more in the process, being more vocal in the process. That's always been a good thing. We are a country of debate. That's how we settle our differences. We debate and then we vote based on what was said in the debate, based on the candidate who was speaking in said debate. We debate and we vote. That's the system that we live in. So, woke is a good thing for the American citizens to wake up, and be able to see what's really going on here and say, wait a minute, this slippery slope is a bridge too far. And if I don't wake up and begin to participate in, American democracy, then American democracy will be no more. If I don't begin to, participate and make my voice heard to hold rogue police officers accountable, then, this thing is going to turn to total anarchy. And there's going to be blood all in the streets. Because the winning argument knows that there's no way that we are, as Americans and as a country, can move forward with said rogue officers in the ranks, brutalizing citizens, falsifying documents, planting evidence. It's only going to lead to more crime, more chaos, more anarchy. And so here we are. We have two sides of this very important issue. I've shown you the spinning side. And I did, somewhat my best to point out the winning side. And it is what it is. It is what it is. The spin is that, there's a mob out there and they're coming for you. They're out to get you. Now, on the other hand, if and when, we're attacked like on September 11th and Americans rise up, it's no different. The only difference is the reason why, you're rising up. But you're rising up in defense of what you think is a just cause, a just reason. On September 11th, 2001, Americans rose up in defense of the country against terrorism. In the summer of 2020, American citizens rose up and stood up in what they felt in defense of what they felt was domestic terrorism. And seized up domestic terrorism, which is just as important, by the way, as terrorism. And that's how we have to look at it as Democrats. Let the Republicans spin. Terrorism, from foreign countries, from foreign adversaries is something that's bad and something that we should always go after. But domestic terrorism, on the other hand, that's not the big deal. There's no there. That's the spin. There's no there. This is just, a figment of someone's imagination. These are just patriots who love their country. That's the spin. That's the spinning argument. But as Democrats, as I said, we have to understand, respect, and realize and advocate for and vote for leaders who are going to protect the homeland and protect the American public from terrorists, whether they come from a foreign country or they're right here in the homeland. As Democrats, we know that. But that's what the Republicans are going to do. They're going to spin it and say, here's a woke mob. And this is what they're running on. This is not something that we here at Soluble are accusing the Republicans of. They've come out, on almost every platform when it comes to the issues that they see facing America. Almost all of them speak of the woke mob. And that's their spin on it. That is, a dangerous group of citizens, not non-law abiding, who's out to disrupt, dismantle. They want to cancel everything. They're part of a cancel culture, and it's just a mob of people. Well, that's the spin. That's the spin. But we here at Soluble, we're offering you the winning argument. Now it's up to you to take whichever one you choose or gravitate towards the one that you feel like works best for you. But history will judge. History will record. Here and that's it. That's a spinning argument on the woke mob. And here we've offered you the winning argument on the so-called woke mob. And as I said, and we stated unequivocally without, no hesitation that it was the whole melting pot that we saw in the summer of 2020. And it was necessary. There was a cause, and then there was the effect. And that's what it was, plain and simple. Plain and simple. So the spinning argument and the winning argument. The spinning argument and the winning argument is what we're, hoping to get you to see plainly and clearly. What else are the Republicans, they're championing, they're running hard against? They're running hard against the LGBTQ community, transgender rights, the drag queens, and what have you. Now, as I've said before, our position here at Soluble, our faith, will not allow us to wrestle with this issue. We stand strongly and firmly in it. As Democrats, we suggest and we offer, protections for the trans community, drag queens, etc. And this is as far as our faith will let us go. This is only as far as our faith will let us go. Now, as I've stated before on the podcast, the spinning argument could be that this is a Democratic thing. The Democrats are child pedophiles, they're groomers, they're supporting this. It's sponsored by them, and it's ruining America. And the Democrats have rallied around it and made it worse. That's the spinning argument. That's the spinning argument when it comes to trans America, LGBTQ rights and protections, etc. Now, our position here at Soluble with the winning argument is this. And I heard it since I was a child. I'm 55 years old now. And, I'm quite sure that you who are out there listening have heard the same thing. The winning argument when it comes to, the LGBTQ community, the trans, the drag queens, the drag shows, etc. For as long as I can remember, the prevailing thought has been in America that you can't legislate morals. That's been the prevailing thought. I've heard it ever since I was a child. So now, while it's not a Democrat or Republican, finger to be pointed here at either party, this has just been the prevailing thought in America, whether it was Democrats or Republicans. Now, do they want to see it now as something that's getting out of hand, as something that's going too far? Then that's a discussion that could be had. But to say that, Democrats are groomers, they support pedophiles, they're responsible for all of this. Nothing can be further than the truth. Nothing can be further than the truth. America has taken a position that you can't legislate morals. Why? Why? Possibly because America doesn't want to. They don't care to legislate morals. So, here we are. Here we are in the 11th hour. And hey, it is what it is. It is what it is. The trans people, they want their rights. They want, the protections. They don't want to be treated as pariahs when they're out in society. We here at Soluble get it. There's enough room. We feel like in this great big world that it doesn't have to be a clash there. I don't have to wrestle with my faith because I worry that I'm being infringed upon by people or a group of people who may be different or who may think different or who may carry themselves different. We know here at Soluble, we know that God will judge. And America is going to have to stand in judgment on this. But to say that, it's a Democratic issue, it's sponsored by Democrats, supported by Democrats, encouraged and churned out by Democrats. This is a spin. This is a spin. And the win is just that, for the longest in America, the position has been that you can't legislate morals. And when you take that approach, then you shouldn't be surprised when things like this are happening in American society. You shouldn't be surprised. Now, can we come to the table and talk about it? Can we sit down and discuss it or take another look at it? Of course. That's what American democracy is all about. That's what American democracy is all about. Trying to find a compromise, debating for that happy medium, for that solution that everyone can agree on and can benefit from. That's what American democracy is all about. So, be careful of the spin. Be careful of the spin because right now, it's hard to see the Republican politicians in this country owning the truth and telling it like it really is. This is the winning argument that this is neither Democrat or Republican who are responsible for this movement. For people wanting to go out of one sex and be in another. It's totally, out of this world for me. But hey, it's not my bag. And as I said, I think there's enough room in this great big world for me and them. You know, they don't infringe upon me. I don't infringe upon them. And I know that God will judge. But the winning argument in America for American democracy, for those voters who are watching, for those Americans, you know, who are concerned, we as a country took that position. We took that position that you can't legislate morals. And so, you know, there's a lot of things that have happened that are immoral all throughout the country, all throughout the history of America, because of this basic stance. You know, and as I said, can we talk about it now? Yes, but it's been in place. It's been in place. You know, that you can't legislate morals. So here we are. You know, because America's taking the stance that you can't legislate morals, you know, little children are in jeopardy, exploited sexually. Because America's taking the position that you can't legislate morals, women are being battered. Women are being attacked, you know, abused, assaulted. Because America's taking the position that you can't legislate morals. So if that's the position, and, you know, talking about change is, you know, another story for another day. But if that's the position, from the winning argument perspective, that you can't legislate morals, if that's the position, then immorality is going to be the rule of the day. It's going to be the order of the day. If you don't legislate morals, then immorality will eventually take over. It will corrupt. It will erode. And it will begin to move morality out of the way and begin to study creep in and, you know, begin to take over. So, you know, we as American citizens listen to the spin and the winning argument on this issue. You know, we shouldn't be surprised that we've taken a position as a country that you can't legislate morals. And so, therefore, here we are. Here we are in the 11th hour, you know, dealing with these everyday social issues now, what we're calling culture wars, because we took the position that, you know, plain and simple, you can't legislate morals. So make no mistake about it. Voter beware. Voter beware. The spin is that this is sponsored by Democrats. You know, they're running pedophilia rings and pizza shops in D.C. underground. You know, it's all part of the deep state and what have you, what have you. This is the spin. This is the spinning argument. Only to sow doubt, sow seeds of discord, instill fear. And, you know, it's just such a shame that, you know, that low that the Republican Party will go to instill fear in the American voter, to persuade them to vote in a certain way, you know, of their liking, of their benefit. We as American citizens, we should be able to be, you know, speak truth to power. Speak truth to power. So, you know, the only argument is that one, that winning argument. You know, because when we begin to spin it, you know, it goes into this gray area. It goes into this murky whirlwind, if you will. And, you know, it's hard to separate fact from fiction there. But here we are in a time and place where, you know, culture wars from the Republicans' point of view is a clear and present danger to American society. And, you know, it's been lurking. It's been laying low. And now it's coming to the forefront. You know, some might say it's coming to a point where it's boiling over. You know, what makes, you know, from a God-fearing man perspective like myself, what makes a man want to be a woman or go after someone, you know, as far as a form of attraction, you know, other than a woman is beyond me. It's beyond me. Because God has given me the woman, and that's more than enough. That's enough. That's more than enough. But here we are in a day and time where, the Republic is 240 something odd years old. And from the beginning to now, it's been the position that you can't legislate morals. And the truth be told, as I said, America doesn't want to. So, don't believe the hype. Don't go for the spin there. That, this is a Democratic thing and that, they own it. They put it out there. They support it. They encourage it. Not so. Nothing can be further than the truth. This is an American position. This is an American problem. This is an American issue. We shouldn't try to politicize it when it's not called for. We shouldn't try to politicize it when it's not called for. Best thing we can do is try to get some understanding there and go from there. But at the end of the day, that's the spinning argument, that it's a Democratic sponsored thing. They're groomers. They're grooming these young people to do this. They support pedophilia. They're pedophiles themselves. That's the spin. That's the spin. And so, once all the spinning stops, please, we encourage you to listen to the win. And that's the winning argument. That, that's the position that America has took. That you can't legislate morals. And now immorality is the order of the day. So, where do we go from here? We go to the debate. We go out and take it out to the American public. And let's have a vote on it. After the debating is over, after we took it to the American public and made the case, then let's have a vote on it. And we move on from there. Couple of more, while we still have time, we'll go into real quick. CRT. This is, another point of view from the Republicans that has America under threat, that America is under attack from, and CRT being critical race theory. And based on what we know here at Soluble, we haven't did a lot of digging into it, but just by picking up bits and pieces and what we've, a little bit we read on it and listened to, it has to deal with, it's dealing with the past, and, colonialism, slavery, oppression. Now, the spinning argument on this is that it's bad because, it makes one group of people feel, bad or feel like they're bad people, or, it makes them feel guilty. It teaches hate. It teaches one group to hate another, and these type of things. This is the spin. Opposition here at Soluble in trying to bring the winning argument when it comes to CRT is, let the truth be told. Let the truth be told. And then, we can take the truth and we can deal with it from there. We know that, America's founding has been based on a lot of violence, bloodshed, genocide, rape, murder. We know this. It's in the books. Now, to teach it in history books or to put it out there, we've done it already. It's in the history books. But now it seems as if, we have these teachers, whether they be pro critical race or whether they be against, we have them more or less willing to tell it just like it was. And, it's kind of like a reckoning for maybe that group of people, that race of people who ancestors were on that wrong side of history, were on that, brutality, that barbaric, that rape and pillage and murder side of history. It is what it is. It is what it is. So opposition here is Soluble in trying to bring the winning argument to CRT versus spinning argument. which is that, like I said, it's put out there to make people feel bad. This is the spin. It's put out there to, make people hate each other, or to turn Americans against each other. It hasn't done it in all these years. It hasn't done it in all these years. The fact that, Negroes in America know their history. They know the history of their ancestry in this country. And, they haven't, not turned to violence because, they're afraid. They fear the consequences. They haven't resorted to violence because that's not in their inherent DNA to get violent without having a good reason. To get violent against another race of people just because they're different. Because they think different, act different, look different. That's not in the psyche of the Negro to attack another race of people or a group of people because they're different. Now, as we said, and it's plainly stated, what is it that we're dealing with here when it comes to critical race theory? Let the truth be taught. Let the truth be taught. Because, one can deal with the truth. One can grow from the truth. One can learn from the truth and not repeat the same mistakes of the past. But if you're going to spin it and, say it was good when it was bad, or say it was easy when it was hard, or say, people was accepting of it and they liked it when they resented it, then you're not going to make, America a better place. You're not going to make the future for future Americans better. You're not going to, form a group of kumbaya. You're not going to do it with falsehoods, with lies, with sugarcoating. That's only going to stir up, more untrust. It's only going to stir up more untrust, more resentment. Now, of course, it's not a pretty truth. Like I say, the history of the selling of this country was a bloody one. It was vindictive. It was vicious. It tore apart families. The selling of this country killed children. The selling of this country sickened Native Americans on purpose, by giving them blankets infested with scarlet fever, malaria, or what have you. It is what it is. No one's looking for a day of reckoning here, not to my knowledge, not to, no one's knowledge here is soluble, where we can see that here's a group of people looking for a day of reckoning against another group of people. Here's one group of people who are plotting revenge against another group of people. That's not what this is here. This is simply telling and teaching history as the facts would have them taught. As the facts would have them taught. Not as, some politician with an axe to grind, or who wants to, gloss over the truth would have it told. But this is, history being told plain and simple the way it was about the Crusaders, the conquistadors, the colonialism. So, we know that the truth is going to prevail, one way or another. You can't stop it. You can't stop it. So, let the truth be told here. When it comes to critical race theory, let's put it out there like it is. Like it happened. Like it actually happened. And the American people are not slow to catch on. They're not ignorant to the fact. They know how to discern what's right and what's wrong and the best way to move forward. We know this as Americans. No matter what political stripe, no matter what race, creed, or color, we know this. But you will have the Republicans to spin it and to keep spinning it and spinning it into a falsehood and keep spinning it until you won't know that none of these things ever happen. And if you get to that point where you don't realize none of these things ever happen, then chances are they can happen again. So that's why it's important to tell it like it is. Let the truth be told, and let the chips fall where they may. Because promoting the falsehoods, pushing the falsehoods are only going to lead to civil unrest. They're only going to lead to trying times. There's an old saying that the truth will set you free. And that's where we're at here. So when it comes to CRT, critical race theory, that's the spinning argument. That's the spinning argument. That is teaching us to hate each other. These lies they're lies that are not good. They're making people hate themselves. That's not the purpose here. The purpose is just to tell the truth. Now, what kind of reaction that Americans will have based on their race or what race their ancestors might have played in these times gone by, it is what it is. It is what it is. The best thing you can do there is try to make peace with yourself. Go to your maker, to try to find peace within. But the truth is the truth when it comes to critical race theory and the races that were affected on when America was settled and how it was settled and the sacrifices that were made by different races of people. The brutality that was suffered. The truth shall set you free. So it remains to be seen. That's going to conclude our podcast for tonight when it comes to spinning the argument and winning the argument. Now, as Democrats, we're always going to have to counter the spinning of the argument and bring out the winning side of the argument. Because, when you're spinning it, you're not really totally dealing with the truth of the matter. You're trying to shift it or alter it to a way that best suits your purpose or your needs or your ambitions. But when you put the argument out there in a way where, it's the winning side of the argument, then, it's the truth. It's put out there in a way where, all the cards are on the table for the American people to see and judge accordingly. There's no fear they're put into it. There's no spin where, you don't know how to separate fact or fiction. And so, you're looking here at this particular subject matter, but you're still confused. And the more you look at it, the less clarity that you're able to obtain by looking at it. That's what happened when the argument is spin. So as Democrats, heading into the next election year, we have to stay on the winning side of the argument. The winning side of the argument. And, as I said, the Republicans are going to constantly spin. They're going to constantly spin because they know that if they spin it just the right way, just the right angle, then, they're going to be able to put that fear out there. And, they're relying on the American populace, the American voter, if you will, being full of fear. And, if they can get us or get you to have that fear instilled in you, then you will feel like, well, the only way I'm going to be safe and protected and make progress in this country is if I vote Republican. That's the purpose of spending it, to instill that fear in you. That you say, okay, let me run to the right because, the things that I'm fearful of, only they can protect me and save me and help me through it. So, that's the order of the day going forward into an election year. As Democrats, of course, we're going to have to rock the vote more than ever. We're going to have to rock the vote more than ever. We did it, in Wisconsin last night. We held the line on the Supreme Court, which is a good day for all Americans, not just a certain segment. For all Americans. And that's our position here at Soluble. Of course, we're Democrats. We're for the working class. But at the end of the day, we want to see all Americans succeed. We don't begrudge millionaires and billionaires when they're paying their fair share. When they're participating in white-collar crimes, of course, we have to call it out. And we should, as Democrats and Republicans, without no spin. So we hope that, you will bear this in mind and keep it with you going forward, spinning the argument and winning the argument. It's real important that you know which side to be on there. The right side of history is the winning of the argument. And the winning is always truth being told on any particular issue. Whether it's, you're arguing transgender rights, cancel culture, gun rights, women's right to choose, the stacking of the Supreme Court, foreign policy. Anytime it's spin, our goal here at Soluble is to spin it back around to a win. And that win is always going to be what we consider to be the truth, all cards on the table for you, the American voter, to judge, to make an informed decision about how you want to vote. No scare tactics, no fear mongering, no propaganda to mislead you or to have you confused that, you feel as if the only way you're going to be saved in all of this fear, smear, and spin is to vote Republican. And so that's our goal. We hope that we have, reached some voter tonight, whether it was of the Democratic stripe or the Republican stripe, just American voters in general, to take a look at the argument and, hold each and every one of our politicians accountable, whether it's Democrat or Republican, either or. If they're spinning the argument, we have to hold them accountable and get back to winning the argument. Because, if we get back to winning the argument, then that's what's best for the America. That's the solution that America needs, a winning argument. Because with a winning argument versus a spinning argument, we're always going to be able to find a solution. And we're always going to be able to make that situation better for the American public. We thank you for joining us tonight here at Soluble for this particular podcast. As I've always said, stay informed, stay on top of policy, and be ready to make an informed decision coming into the election year when it comes to moving America forward for all citizens of all racial stripes, of all backgrounds, whether you're born in the country or whether you have immigrant status. That's our goal here at Soluble, is to keep you informed and, hopefully, that information that we inform you with can, help you make an informed decision at the ballot box, going forward. One more thing before I sign out. We have a local election coming up here in the great city of Jacksonville, Florida. We have a runoff now between candidates Donald Deegan and Daniel Davis. It's real important that we show up for the runoff vote for the next mayor of the city. We only had 11% turnout. And, as I said, the status quo, the beat goes on, if you will, for the same thing that you're not getting or that you're always lacking because you're not showing up to vote. We can do a lot better than 11%. So, we ask you to think about that long and hard for our fellow Jacksonvillians who are going to be participating in the upcoming mayoral runoff next month. Stay informed as always. Stay on top of policy. And until we talk again, this is Soluble signing off, saying good night and God bless. Thank you for joining us. Good night.